In Peru, Indian indigenous movements will carry out a second takeover of Lima to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. The 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council is underway in Geneva, Switzerland. And a new report from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime revealed the death of over 60 inmates in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the last 2 months. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news. In Peru, Indian indigenous movement will carry out on Tuesday a second takeover of Lima to demand the resignation of the president Dina Boluarte. Indigenous Aymara and Quechua people from the combative South Indian region of Puno will arrive to the Peruvian capital to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. The delegations from the 13 provinces of the South Indian region of Puno achieved the highest participation in the popular demonstrations that started in December. The Boluarte's administration recognized that the announced marches are a constitutional right, but they pointed out that violent acts are being carried out with the objective of destabilizing the government's action. Despite the government's arguments, a survey indicated that 58% of those consulted identified themselves with the protests, and 55% believed that the mobilizations will achieve the electoral advance. On Tuesday, the United States has officially asked the Mexican government for the extradition of Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The Mexican Attorney General's office received the formal extradition request and has begun the formalities to carry out the legal process, which it believes could be extended because Guzman has several legal options to challenge the process. A similar situation took place early February when a judge granted a suspension of the extradition. Guzman's capture was carried out during a special operation that took place in January in the state of Sinaloa in Mexico. Guzman is charged with criminal association to distribute psychotropic and narcotic substances. And the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, CONAIE, on Monday called for a national mobilization against the government of Ecuador for March 20. The measure is a response to the murder of Eduardo Mendua, the leader of international relations, belonging to the Cofán nationality of Sucumbíos. The president of CONAIE, Leonidas Issa, said that the government is installing violence, drug trafficking, and also hard killings in their communities. Besides blaming Lazo's administration for the death of the indigenous leader, Issa also pointed out that prior to the death of Eduardo Mendua, the organization had warned 13 times about the threats that were occurring in the Cofán territory during 2022. On Monday in Colombia, a new massacre was registered in the department of Boyacá, accounting as the number 21 so far in the year 2023. According to the Institute for Studies for Development and Peace, in the past, the sinister occurred in the village of Las Ninas, the sector La Laguna, located in the municipality of Gachantivá, where at least 3 people were killed inside a house by armed men. One of the attackers was captured while the other one escaped. It was revealed that among the victims were a woman and her child. And we continue in Colombia, specifically in the department of Arauca, where the murder of a new social leader was registered. According to In the Past, the victim, identified as Abelardo Duarte Moncada, was kidnapped last February 11th at his residence located in the municipality of Tame. His body was found on Monday in the town of Botalón in that municipality with several gunshot wounds. According to data from In the Past, so far this year, 18 social leaders and human rights defenders have been assassinated throughout the country. And the president of Brazil's Supreme Federal Court, Alexandre de Moraes, decided on Monday that the highest court of the South American country will judge the civilians and military who were involved in the coup attempt of last January the 8th. In his decision, the magistrate highlighted the competence of the Supreme Federal Court for the case without distinguishing between civilians and military, and authorized the federal police to initiate an investigation for eventual crimes committed by the military. In Monday's decision, the magistrate Alexandre de Moraes extended for 60 days the investigations into the coup acts, and for 90 days the investigations into the anti-democratic digital militias that allegedly promoted the coup actions through social networks. On Monday, the delegation of the Caribbean community CARICOM to the Caribbean island concluded a work visit to Haiti, intended to find solutions to the current economic and social crisis. The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, who traveled at the head of the group, assured that after a day of meetings with private, public, religious, and political organizations, the urgency of re-establishing a secure environment and protecting the population from the actions of criminal gangs was clear. The President stressed that these perspectives must be supported by an organic democracy, creating institutions, structures, and an organization that will result in the re-establishment of stability in Haiti, as well as the promotion of consensus. The international delegation also held a meeting with senior officials of the Haitian National Police to discuss effective strategies to address security challenges. Now we move on to other topics. Chile's National Forestry Corporation declared under control the forest fire known as Santa Ana, which affected several communities in the Biobío region for 25 days. Authorities confirmed through its official Twitter account the hotspots are far from the perimeter of the fire. The Santa Ana fire started on February the 2nd and swept through an area of 74,101 hectares, making it the second largest fire in the country's history. It left 19 people dead in the Biobío region. Containment prevented the fire from spreading to San Pedro de la Paz after having crossed the communities of Nacimiento, Santa Juana, and Coronel. So far, Biobío, La Araucanía, and Ñuble have been the regions most affected by the multiple forest fires registered in the country since the beginning of this month. The fires have left more than 458,000 hectares lost, 25 people dead, and 7,588 people affected. Let's take a short break. But first, remember you can follow us at our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council is underway in Geneva, Switzerland. The session began on February 27th with the high-level segment of the Council, which will continue until March the 2nd, with over 125 states sending ministers and other high-level officials to Geneva to discuss different human rights issues across the world. The Human Rights Council is the premier body within the United Nations responsible for addressing human rights violations worldwide, and it was created in 2006 to replace the Commission on Human Rights. And in the framework of the 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, denounced that powerful countries use human rights as a mechanism for political domination.
Is a common ideal. No country is free from challenges, and there is no country which can claim to be a shining example in the field, nor can any country politicize or use human rights to stigmatize other countries or economic and social projects which are not in line with the ambitions of weapons markets and institutions. Imperialistic attempts to convert this, the Human Rights Council, into a court against those countries which refuse to lay down to the policies and aims of powerful countries only undermine the credibility of this body.
Rodriguez also stressed that Cuba defends the dialogue and international cooperation as a way for a mutual respect.
Founder member of the Human Rights Council, Cuba defends respectful and constructive dialogue and international cooperation. We advocate for the full respect for the indivisibility, objectivity and non-selectivity in the way in which human rights are considered. It is in this spirit that we are running for re-election to membership of the Human Rights Council for the 2024-2026 period in the elections that will be held this coming October.
The high-level meeting was a platform for the Cuban foreign minister to denounce the United States' double standards policy against Cuba and the world in terms of human rights.
Government is applying a political genocide through its blockade on Cuba and using maximum pressure against us, which has subjected the Cuban economy to an extremely high level of pressure. This has had an impact on families' standard of living, pushing prices up, making food and medicine scarce, hampering the generation of electricity and preventing the country from participating in international financial transactions, hampering construction services, the retail trade, investment, health and education.
Addressing the 52nd regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Switzerland, the Venezuelan Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ival Gil Pinto, stated that the country managed to mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic despite the unilateral sanctions imposed by the United States.
Venezuela has vaccinated all its target population. We have mitigated the effects of the pandemic despite the problems posed by the imposition of criminal, illegal and punitive unilateral coercive measures against our people. This block our access to inputs, medical inputs, equipment. We have been the targets of over 900 unilateral coercive measures and other criminal impositions, either directly or indirectly. This is a deliberate effort to destroy our economy and to bring about regime change. This is a flagrant violation of international law.
Meanwhile, the Bolivarian diplomat highlighted his country's achievements in social programs that continue to benefit the people.
And we handed over 500,000 new houses. So over 4 million free houses have been provided for the benefit of over 20 million people. We hope to achieve 5 million houses by 2025. Also in 2021, we implemented over 40% of social protection programs through the Patria platform. This has benefited people without any discrimination.
The Venezuelan foreign minister also referred to the harmful consequences of double standards, which continue to undermine the work of institutions like the United Nations.
Reject double standards which continue to undermine the work of certain sectors in the Council. There are too many mandates instrumentalizing human rights. They have high costs for the office, money which could be devoted to technical assistance and cooperation. There are mandates which criminalize countries of the global south. Venezuela's action in the Human Rights Council will continue to strive for the promotion and protection of human rights in our steadfast commitment to peace.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break. But you can now watch TeleSUR English in 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. Welcome back. On Tuesday, a new report from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime informed and revealed that in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, more than 60 inmates have died in the Makala prison in the country's capital in the last 2 months. According to a recent report by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, at least 66 prisoners are said to have died from malnutrition, asphyxiation, or lack of care for chronic diseases. The report also denounces that the more than 10,700 prisoners housed in the penitentiary center are overcrowded. The report also denounces that the more than 10,007 prisoners housed in the prison are overcrowded. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.